Welcome to Hop and Brew School, live from Gervais, Oregon at the Coleman Ag World Headquarters. I'm Blaze Rude with Yakima Chief Hops, Director of Key Accounts and Brewing at Yakima Chief Hops. And I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with David here to my left.
Yeah, I'm David Hensey. I'm the president of Coleman Agriculture.
I'm Van Havig. I'm the master brewer, one of the owners, founders of Gigantic Brewing Company in Portland, Oregon.
I'm John Coleman. Our family is the Coleman Ag.
My name's Kiara Hagler, and I run the Fresh Hop program for Coleman Ag.
We're all here today to talk to you about fresh hops. So instead of just talking to growers or just brewers, we brought us all together to talk about the whole supply chain of fresh hops, how it works, and how to brew beer with fresh hops. Probably talk about how to grow hops too. So figure with brewing, let's start talking first about how you grow the hops and what the relationship's like with the brewers. So I'd like to hear from the Coleman crew a few questions here that we have. Why do you like participating in fresh hop brews?
I think I can take that. I not only work in fresh hop, but I also work in the production side, and it's just really amazing to work year-round in the hops and see all the hard work and determination and time and teamwork it takes to grow this crop, but then see the very end product and hand it off to the brewers. And we have brewers from all over the country come out, and it's just a really amazing opportunity to meet them and meet everybody's different backgrounds and grow relationships across the country.
Great.
You guys got anything to add to that?
I think she nailed it. I think she nailed it.
Right on. All right. What is the furthest anyone has driven to come pick up fresh hops?
So this morning, actually, we had Fatheads Brewery in Ohio. They sent out a reefer truck, and it was a 40-hour drive straight. And, that doesn't account for sleeping time, other additional stops.
Those dudes don't sleep.
Neither do we. But they came out for 2,000 pounds of Simcoe this morning at our St. Paul home farm location. And so Jack and I were at the farm bright and early and got them all ready to go. You got to tie everything down, and they are on their way to Ohio as we speak.
Do you have a number of boxes? I know they were all Yakima Chief, those Yakima Chief cardboard boxes.
We had 139 boxes, and then we had 25 of our custom fresh hop bags that went into the truck. The truck is negative 10 degrees, so they'll flash freeze. So they are, it was a little chilly loading that truck. It took a whole team of us all night, about 6 hours for us to figure it out, make sure the hops, the integrity of the cones, everything, make sure we really got that all settled. And
Isn't this the second time they did this?
oh, they've come back every year, so this is our, I believe, second year with Fatheads, and it's
So I
great
guess
brewing
the drive
partner.
is worth it.
Yeah.
I heard a story the other day about someone from California who flies up on like a Piper Cub.
Yeah, that happened at our farm at Alluvial. They flew up
There
and
you go.
landed at the Independence Airport, and they showed up at the Alluvial farm and got a bunch of bags of hops and shoved them in the airplane. It was like they were contraband central there. But they were super excited. And actually, they did it again this year, but they've done it. They've got a little more organized. They bring up a big truck and they load a bunch of different breweries' requests for fresh hops, and then they ship them down there that way. Another interesting story was from Odell's, which is out of Fort Collins, Colorado, and they wanted some hops early this year, and there's quite a few, I think, and I'll let you go ahead and finish the story.
It was about 2,500 pounds. They came, and we were picking up or getting hops for a few different breweries, but they ended up coming out. I got to the farm, 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's a bunch of brewers, bright, shiny, happy, and looking a lot better than we were. They actually got to pick up, they got strata, and they got to see the whole process, got to see how we packed all these bags full, and they ended up having their flight home on the same plane that their hops were going back on.
To Denver.
Yeah, all the way back to Denver.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Those are some of the more interesting stories, I guess. We get a lot of people from the Portland or Bend area that come out and get hops from us. And
I have to drive like 45 minutes to get down there.
You got good, man.
I mean, it's
so we get to meet a lot of interesting characters.
I think something interesting is we have actually changed the process in our production facilities and the pickers to make sure that so we can actually bag easier those fresh hops. Usually they go on a conveyor belt right to the kiln. We actually put in a little dumper station.
It runs so smooth now. Our mechanical team at the shop, they made these chutes that you can reverse the belt, so rather than having the hops go directly to the kiln and having to run upstairs, load these bags out of the kiln, run them down, weigh them, all of that, it's downstairs, and they built this frame that fits the bag perfectly. You fill it up, throw it on the scale, and it's really efficient.
It's changed. I will tell you, it's changed a lot. The first time I went and got fresh hops was 2003, maybe, something like that, 2 something, I don't remember. And we went to a farm on the other side of the freeway, and showed up and talked to the foreman. He's like, "Now, what are you gonna do with these?" And I was like, "We're making beer." And he goes, "I know you're gonna make beer, but wait a minute, you want these before they go in the kiln?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, shit, how are we gonna do that?" And the only way we could do it at this farm at that time was to jump in the kiln, and as they were being laid in, kind of had to race that.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys call that thing.
Kiln layer.
The kiln layer.
Yeah.
Kind of had to race the kiln layer to get bags. You know, I don't know. I was working at a brew pub. We only had like an 8-barrel kettle, so it wasn't. It wasn't like, getting 2,000 pounds or something like that,
I did exactly what you're talking about 3 nights ago, so people still do that.
Still do that.
I didn't jump in the kiln, I hung over and
That's
moved
great.
the conveyor and I filled the
Yeah.
bags, but I only needed, 15 pounds, so it's a little easier to do that.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it has.
really has.
And it's pretty new to our farm, quite frankly. And I think since we've been growers of YCH, that's when we've seen more of that, because you guys invite brewers to come out here that, because they're looking for some hops that you have. And this is a fairly close location to Portland and even Bend. And so there's multiple growers around here that are involved. And we just love doing it. The people that work here love doing it. They love being a part of it. And I think we've got a lot of people that are doing a little bit here and there with it that aren't on this video, but it takes a big group, and everybody's enthusiastic when hop harvest comes about the fresh hop part, for sure.
Well, it's been really, I think, the main driver for building relationships between growers and brewers.
Yeah.
It's kind of the one time that you've got a chance to kind of come down, talk to a grower. I mean, I get it. I could pop down here because I live 45 minutes away, but it's the one time, see the operations, understand what goes on with picking and cleaning and all that, and drying and all those issues. And then just that face-to-face contact.
Yeah.
And the kind of, like I said, I've been involved in fresh hop beer for nearly 20 years now, and the feedback has been, both ways. It's been really crucial. We have a much better understanding of the problems you face. I think there's a lot of growers who have a better understanding, not just because of fresh hop, but because the relationships have been built through this, about what brewers are looking for.
Yeah, and I think that really helps for us, and especially our team, to understand that and be able to try to do a better job each year to provide what you guys really need to make sure your beer will do well.
20 years ago, how many brewers did you know?
A big one called Anheuser-Busch.
Sure, okay, right, yeah, sure, right?
Yeah.
But now, how many, and I don't mean, how many brewers do you know? You probably know a lot.
Oh, there's a heck of a lot. We've got, I think, Other Half Brewing is coming out here next week, and they're actually going to do a collaboration with Block 15 out of Corvallis. And I think Other Half is from Brooklyn, I believe.
Yeah, but Sam lived out here for
Sam's from Oregon originally, so he has a affinity for this area, and I think he likes the hops from YCH, and he's chosen some hops of ours, so he wanted to come see the farm, so we've created that relationship, and that's not the first one. There's others from back.
Oh, there's a ton. You
never
probably
ever get to know those people. When we used to work with Anheuser-Busch, we get to see a lot of people from AB, but you really never. It was Budweiser basically, right? So it was not unique like some of these kind of beers are. This is fairly unique.
But now, I think every grower that is involved with fresh hops, and that's a lot of growers, and here, Yakima, Idaho, you name it, wherever. I think they've got to know at least at this point close to 100 brewers.
Oh yeah, easily.
We have 70 on our list this year.
Yeah, so that's a
Just
great
this
example,
year.
right? But 20 years ago, when I was first doing this, I was the first brewer that a grower had ever met.
Yeah.
It's been a huge part of how the hop and craft brewing industry has grown together.
And what's so enthusiastic, I mean, what I'm excited about now is all these beers are being made with these fresh hops.
Yeah.
And Portland's 45 minutes away. We get to go up and try those, and the whole group is excited about that. And we'll get to go to these breweries, and some of the people that couldn't come to the farm will be there, and we can introduce ourselves and have a great visit. So it's really neat.
It gives the brewer and the farmers a sense of pride that something this cool.
It came together.
Yeah, it
and
came
did
together like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in the hop industry if it wasn't for fresh hops. Like I was a brewer.
Is that true?
100% true. My dad met Steve Carpenter at 2009 CBC or something. We were trying to struggle, like figure out what to do with our little 10-barrel brewery, family brewery, and Steve invited us down to Yakima Chief in Sunnyside, the old spot where the extract plant is, and sent us out to the hop farm to talk to his brothers and dad who run the farm. And the brothers were gone, and old man Tom was there, and he's like, I heard him on the phone with Brad, like, oh, okay, you'll be home an hour, I'll keep them on ice for you, and we'll work this deal out. So we got the whole story of how Yakima Chief started, and got one-on-one time with Tom Carpenter. So he was really the first grower that I had really spent time with.
And then you were broken right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, on Carpenter Road.
Yeah.
So, that's how I got involved. I was hunting for fresh hops, you know. My dad had the lead from CBC, and we followed up on it. So,
awesome.
Been brewing them ever since.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think I got a question down here for all of us, growers and brewers, I would say. How are wet hops different from fresh hops? I think it's a terminology thing, and there's green hops, there's wet hops, there's fresh hops, but that's
So let's see what the brewer thinks about
Oh
it.
God, it's all semantics to me. I mean, to me, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this. I mean, wet hops is very, very clear, right? Wet hops means they haven't gone into the kiln, right? And to me, that's really the best expression of what we're trying to do with a harvest-specific raw material. Trying to get it as fresh as you can and as quick as you can. Like I said, we're 45 minutes from here. We mash in on fresh hop days at the normal time, just at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're boiling at noon, and usually we're picking up hops at about 10 o'clock. So we're like 2 to 3 hours, something like that, from bind to kettle. And we sort of pride ourselves on that, and that's sort of how we prefer to do that. But that's what I would call wet hop. I would consider anything fresh that hasn't really been baled, right? I think that, I hope most brewers know this, that hops come out of the kiln and they sit on the floor and they've got to off-gas a little bit and they've got to cool down and then they get baled. But even then, I mean, if you look at traditional hop usage, geez, go to Germany. No brewer looks, German hop harvest is what, early mid-September, right? Something like that. In Germany, hops go into a bale early mid-September, and then they go above a cow barn for about 2 months, and they sit above cows for about 2 months. And then, I shit you not. They do. Literally.
Yeah.
And that is about when brewers want to look at them. Like they don't want to see anything until like November or December, because they want that off-gassing. Right, and so that's really the traditional time when a lot of people would look at hops. We started moving selection way earlier, and even AB did it way earlier. It's just a different philosophy, but those have been in bale. Usually, what you're looking at has been in bale for at least a couple weeks, things like that.
Maybe more, yeah. And in UK they'll hang around for a while.
Yeah. And ambient conditions. But the thing is that hops they're a natural product, and they're changing after kilning for a long time. God, I remember a long time ago looking at some hops in the valley during selection and being like, I don't know about this. And one of the Ralphs was like, why don't you take that cut home? And why don't you just leave it in the brewery for 4 days and then smell it again, and then you tell me. And I will, they're fine. They're fine.
Too much myrcene.
Yep.
Yep.
Totally normal. So to the original question, right? To me, it's like wet hops are pre-kiln. Anything that hasn't been baled, to me, I'll consider fresh.
Well, and to add to that, they are as fresh as they possibly can get. Every brewer we have come out, they're scheduled to come out at 8 a.m. The truck, 5-10 minute drive to the picker. They're in the picker for a couple minutes, and we don't bag until we know you're going to be there, or we wait until you get there. So by the time they get in your car, in your van, in your truck, they are as fresh as possible.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's a big differentiation.
No, and that's a huge deal. I mean, there's frankly, I think most brewers deal with this somewhat. There's a lot of times when you have to pick up your fresh hops on one day, and then you might have to put them in your cooler, and use them the next day. We always brew that first day, but sometimes we'll have a second day of brewing. The change is radically different. It's remarkable, how much they change. They're still they have all those things, aromas and everything, but man, they start to generate heat really quickly, and
soupy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they get a little bit dank and whatnot. Really
I
quick.
found if you can drop the temperature fast, then you're kind of golden for a few days.
Yeah,
So
but that's hard to do in a commercial brewery where you might have
if you have that
a
much hops.
tote or something like that.
Yeah.
The center of it's just never going to get cool.
Yeah, we used to get them in our cold box and spread them out in a bunch of bins, just like thin lifts of it.
Yeah,
that
as
would help,
much as you
but
can,
it would
yeah.
still not be as good as flash freezing or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I like what you did for fatheads. So I hadn't heard about a full truckload done like that. So
Yeah.
It was the
Minus
first
10.
for me.
Yeah. You guys should work with Flavor Pack. Just run over to Flavor Pack, jam them in their cooler for like 20 minutes, bam! And
Yeah.
lock it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
for all of you from outside of this area, Flavor Pack is a large fruit processor in the valley.
Yep.
If you enjoy strawberry ice cream. Everyone asks us, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, another question for the Coleman crew. What can you say about terroir and what you see with, on your farm with same variety, different places, and do you see much variation or?
I'd let David
great
ask that
question.
one.
This is a great question, by the way.
It's interesting. A couple of years ago, we had Cigar City come out from Florida, and they really like the Simcoe in a certain field. And they ask us, why does it have that characteristic? Now, we're not saying that's a better characteristic, but it's what they preferred. So it spurred the thought, is there differences in location, by soil, by climate, everything? John's wife and business partner, she said, hey, let's go take a look at this. Let's do a terroir project, because they do it here with the grapes. And so we started looking, and we did some studies around several areas of our farm. And the first year, and we worked with Oregon State University, and the first year we just wanted to see, is there a difference? Is there a there? And actually we found out, based on the soil type, the environmental, a little bit of the cultural practices too, on how we grow, there's some differences in hop characteristics and actually the sensory as we get into the beer. So we've expanded that after a couple of years. We're now doing some up in Washington, different areas in this valley. And I think there's some benefits to it, is that we know we're starting to learn the best places to plant certain varieties. So you get and also when a brewer comes out, they may be able to say, hey, what area is going to give me more floral in this particular hop? We want to get to that. Which one is more fruity? We want to, we don't want to say which is better, but which can we reach the brewer's preference.
Just provide them with more differences between the different fields that we have on different farms. We're spread out about 40 miles in this valley, so it's a big difference between our southern farm and our northern farm.
That's just your.
Yeah, just our farm. But and we're one of the most southern growers, I'll say commercial growers, but on the northern end, there's a few more people north of us. But
and then maybe we should have a lecture on the Missoula floodplain, how it came through here, and the Van Duzer airflow that comes up.
Yeah.
I would say that's what's unique about our area.
Yeah.
So they get to that question.
If I can say something too, that I think this is important for brewers to understand too, is that the grower has a really difficult job. Like, we really need to be nice to all of the growers, not to kiss ass here or anything
Thanks,
like that.
man.
But it's true, because it's amazing that you're doing that kind of work, right? But even after all that work gets done, right? Drying is not an easy process, right? And how growers dry and how they organize their drying and how they organize their pick dates and all those sorts of things. These farmers are not growing corn and soy. It is not like that at all. Like,
It's closer to wine grapes than corn and soy.
it is difficult to. Most of these families up here in the Northwest, they've been growing hops for generations, And every year you come talk to them, you hear these little snippets like, well, this year I'm trying this, or I think I need to push the pick date, or I'm changing the amount of air I'm moving through the kiln, or what, like, stuff like this is happening all the time because it's what they have to do to get us the best hops is incredibly difficult. It's like, look, there's 3 totally separate skilled industries that have to come together to make really good beer, right? Malting is one of them. I know barely anything about malting, and you need really good maltsters to make really good malt, and we need that to make good beer. And then there's the hop growers, and it's the growing and the kilning. It's all that together.
Yeah.
Let alone processing. Processing matters as well. But that, and then if things go right, then we get good raw materials. That's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that I think a lot of brewers don't understand this stuff until they're in contact with it. And it takes multiple visits, you know?
Yeah.
These guys don't really like to talk, like they're all chatty right now, but realistically they're all competitive. You're laughing because you know it's the truth.
I think you're helping with the chattiness.
Yeah, you know it's the truth. But they're all competitive with each other. And so, like, you have to, like, over years, take, like, this little bit of information from here and this little bit of information, and then you can eventually piece it together to get, like, a bigger picture of what's going on. That's the truth. And there's nothing wrong with it.
I mean, I think everyone's competitive, but also
Yeah.
I think hop growers across this area, everyone works together as a team, and people bounce
Oh, I know
ideas
they
off
talk.
each other. Yeah.
But they tell each other what they want to tell each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And they also want to brag about their facilities.
Oh,
something new.
Oh, man, I've seen that in person.
There you go. Excuse me.
You know, the other thing is we did with our team is we actually did sort of our own brew school. So we went through and did we went Yakima Chief. We did some sensory testing. So members of our team, they could be better at basically having a speak with the brewer, talk about the brewer. And then actually we're doing a brewing program to learn a little bit how to brew. We've got several people who have gone to Cicerone training.
Yeah.
And it's just, we want to be able to speak the same language.
Yeah,
It's really valuable.
I was going to ask if any of you have brewed a fresh hop beer or been part of a fresh hop brew yet.
Max Coleman does a lot. He's our experimenter. He works night shift, so I guarantee he's sleeping right now. But yeah, he's very interested in that side of things.
Do you have a brewery on site that you brew?
No, he does it all at home.
At home? He's got one? Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. The timing's terrible, but you're welcome to come up. I mean, I honestly, and I understand the timing is the worst thing ever. It's like the busiest part of your year, right?
Yeah.
But
When's your next fresh hop brew, Van? What are you brewing
we're
with
done
next?
with them this year. Sorry.
You're done?
Yeah, we're done.
All right.
And we did a Strata, and then we did a Simcoe.
We got Citro Mosaic going right now. So,
Yeah, no, I know. It's
Good time to be
tank
brewing
space,
fresh hops.
right? It's tank space. One of these years, I really want to brew with Crystal. Just haven't gotten to,
oh yeah.
but it's a favorite of mine. So
Matt from Double Mountain's done fresh hop with that before, hasn't he?
I'm sure he has. Yeah.
I think he's another one with a
Yeah.
plane that loads him up once in a while, I believe.
Oh God! Any chance for Matt to jump in his plane? He's just like, I'll just fly.
I know, yeah, I think
I'll just fly.
Doug told me he'd bring him pizzas and then he'd send them with hops and they'd keep that relationship going that way. Pizza
Yep.
for hops.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Sounds about right.
all right,
Just
so
want to say, just John left for a minute. We are a working farm, and there was a hop truck pulling up to a scale back here and causing a little noise. So we went and asked that for a little bit we can shut that down. So John did a sprint over there to get that done. That's
I swear to God, I thought he was getting a beer.
that's a working
Anyone now?
thank you, John.
No problem.
All right, we're gonna go into some brewer questions here. I guess me and Van will talk about this a little bit. What do you like about brewing with fresh hops, Van?
Honestly, my favorite thing about brewing with fresh hops is coming down the valley. So, Gigantic is a little bit different than most breweries because we do work with whole hops every day that we brew. We only use pellets in the fermenter, and we've got a full-size hop back and whatnot. So, for us, brewing fresh hops is weirdly easy. The only thing we have to do is drive down the valley. But I really value coming down here and making those relationships and seeing the operations. It's great to see everyone's operation too. Gets you a little bit of insight into what different growers are doing. They smell great, frankly. And the other thing that's fun about fresh hops is, you don't really know it's a gamble. It's a touch of a gamble, right? And you learn very, very specific things about harvest at fresh hops. So there are times when you roll down the valley, and we oftentimes work with Doug at Sidebusters, and Doug will be like, well, you're in luck because we just started picking that field. And so then you learn, you're like, oh, I'm getting the edge. And you learn that you learn the difference between what the edge of the field is, and then a few rows in, and then versus the center of the field. Mm-hmm. And you learn about maturity differences and things like that. So that's always fun. And then trying to take that little bit of information and then try to needle Doug a little bit, be like, just want to be more in the middle of the field.
Tell me after you're a few rows in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll just wait. I'll just sit around in the truck and wait for a little bit. It's only going to be 20 minutes, right? Yeah, so it's scary how fast this all happens. By the way, if you haven't seen it, these trucks driving around on country roads, driven like loaded with hops, yeah, and just hauling ass everywhere. You're just like, I drive reasonably fast. And I'm just like, that guy's in like a 2.5 ton truck. Anyway,
gotta be careful down here.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you have
it's
to.
All about freshness.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's got to happen so fast, right?
Yep.
And you guys move at a really good clip. But that's the best thing. It's also really great. We try, if we have the labor, to bring younger brewers down to come see it. And I think that's important too, for younger brewers to understand what's going on. It's kind of a educational, cultural thing too. There's just a lot that's great about it, honestly. It feels like it's also the only time of year when you're really connected to the agricultural nature of what we do. Obviously barley's a huge deal, but barley gets harvested and then put in a silo for at least 6 months before it goes into the malt house. And then it's got to sit for another month or two. It's a really long process. It's not as connected to the natural seasons.
Yeah, I see that, and it's used in so many different industries: food industry, beverage industry, where hops are very specific to the brewers and so the hop growers and brewers.
What percentage of your harvest goes to the manufacture of hop pillows?
I have no idea. I doubt very much.
I have a little box of hop tea in the kitchen.
Yeah, there you go. Lasts you all year. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. You grab a handful, and you're like, I'm good.
Is there excitement around this time of year, like with your customer base, as they start?
Oh God, people love it. Yeah, the customers love it. I mean, it's fun and special for us. The customers they can't get enough of it. You actually notice that the sales of your other beers drop because all anyone locally in the Portland area wants to drink is fresh hop for about whatever it is, 3-5 weeks, something like that. That's a little bit crazy. And then there's the world's tiniest burden put on us, where we have to explain to people when they ask, why don't you have these beers all the time? Okay. So the way a harvest works,
a month out of the whole year.
We can do greenhouse hops.
Yeah.
No, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, but then volume and
that's right.
be a little bit rough. But it's a whole thing. I mean, it's kind of in a weird way, it's like when you were a kid and you could either think about the year starting at Christmas/New Year's because you're a child. Or you could think about it starting at the first day of school, like the year is either September to September or, right. And for us, it's sort of the same. It's sort of like, the year is kind of somewhere around here.
Yeah.
It's like a way to be like, this year.
This is the start of the next crop year.
Yeah. It's because we really do talk about that, harvest year and crop year. And,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We've started a new program where we flash freeze them and hold them sub-zero, and I brewed with some fresh 21 Cascades from Van Horn's a few days ago, and used some 20 crop flash frozen Simcoe Citra that I've used. And they're holding up great. I mean, they've also been held, I think it's like at least -30.
Wow.
logistically, it made sense for the brewers that are too far away that can't come here to visit the farm and bring the hops back with them. We actually can keep just getting that temperature down so fast kind of locks in the quality. The leaf really protect the lupulin at that point. And, you can try the beer when you come up.
Yeah. I do like the fact that it's like, I don't ever want this to get to be like a year-round thing.
No, it's
ruin it,
not.
right?
Yeah, the yields are rough and all sorts of issues.
Well,
I mean, it's great that you can. It's great that you have a method.
3 to
to
5
supply
weeks.
people.
That's a special time for the brewers.
Right, yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's what's unique about it.
Yeah, it's our Beaujolais.
For me, when I brew a fresh hop beer, I love the hunt for the hops and going out. I'm really spoiled because I'm in Yakima for harvest for work, and I can just drive around and see what's picking and what smells to my liking, and it brings me back to my early days as a brewer when, honestly, it was like we'd take like Labor Day off pretty much and come back and like we'd set up the hop deals, we'd go fish the Click Attack, camp out, and we'd come back and we at times would load bags like into our boats and go and brew. That was kind of like, it was like a yearly trip. My dad was the owner and we'd be a trip with my dad and then we'd celebrate by getting fresh hops and doing it upright. So
That's
that's
great.
kind of awesome.
That's a good story.
That's
it was good.
crazy.
Yeah.
Got pictures at Carpenter's with like my drift boat full of hops, like 3 bags, straps on it, because we didn't want them in the car. We had the boats, you know. You get sleepy when you drive around with fresh hops, man?
Everyone says that. I don't. I get mildly distracted.
Yeah,
I was a little worried about that Piper Cub. It was full.
Right, yeah. You just get a little bit like I just get distracted because I start to focus too much on smelling things. I just get too focused on sort of like, yeah, okay, I think this is going to be like this. You know, I'm thinking about the brewing and the effect. You know what I mean? Oh, geez, there's my turn. You know, kind of thing. I don't get sleepy though, but I'm naturally caffeinated, so
you kind of are, yeah.
it's not my fault.
What unique characteristics do you believe fresh hops impart in beer?
There's this weird, delicate, ephemeral. It's like a weird, spicy, herbal. You know, this is gonna sound terrible, but it's the only way I can really explain it. There's a little bit of, like you have orange juice, and then the orange juice goes off a little bit, and there's that weird tang. You know, that's terrible. Don't get me wrong, but it's like there's like an extra tang to the hops. That's this ephemeral. It's a higher note to them. It's like a higher VOC, volatile organic compound, that's still there in the hops, and so it's got this bright herbal tanginess to it. It's nothing like bad grape juice or orange juice or grape juice, whatever. But it's that, and it's super, super delicate. And the crazy thing about the beers is you brew the beer, whatever, and then you get it in package, whatever that's, you know, can, bottle, keg, whatever. And it's got an honest to God real shelf life of, in prime condition, it's like 2, maybe 3 weeks tops. And it doesn't go bad after that. It just loses a little bit of the magic. You know, it loses, that tang starts to drop down. And so if you drink fresh hop beers that are, I don't know, let's just say 6 weeks in package, something like that, they still taste great. They're fine. There's just that, they're missing that.
Yeah, I feel like
Je ne sais quoi.
there's a maturity piece though too. Like they might not taste right, and then boom, they turn on.
Right, yeah, like as soon as you put it,
then
like
you got that 3
there's
week.
almost like, but for lack of a better term, bottle shock.
Yeah.
Right, like right off the bat, and then they suddenly come alive. Yeah, yeah. We actually usually we will put ours in package and then put them on that day, but they're usually better like 2, 3, 5 days later.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah. They're a little bit harsh off the bat, and then they kind of come into their own, and they sit there for a little bit, and they kind of drop down.
What kind of how do you brew with them, and what kind of dosing do you use? You have this, yeah.
So, like I said, we built our brewery around using whole hops. And so this is easy for us, and the way I prefer to do it is we literally just load them in the hop back. Maybe I'm mildly technical for a second. What we would do is we'd make a wort, usually not that strong, 13, 14 gravity, depending on where you're in the country, that's strong or not strong. And we'll just kind of wave some hops over the kettle for some bitterness, just like the world's tiniest edition. And then we won't add anything. We'll just boil wort, and then we will load the hop back full of hops. And when I say load hop back full of hops, to be very technical, we are putting about 19.5 barrels of hot wort. So that's wort at 212 degrees, multiplied by 0.96 to get barrels of wort at 68 degrees. So that ends up being about 18.
Thermal expansion.
Yeah. And we are typically putting about 200 pounds of wet hops in the hop back for that.
Wow.
It's a fair whack.
Yeah.
It's a fair whack. So what? It's maybe 7-1. Dry to wet. Depends.
I kind of feel it depends on the hop, because if they're
clearly
really tightly dense cones
tight,
and you
it's
can't
gonna
get
be
the
a little
lupulin,
Yeah. But we run 200 pounds for essentially 18 barrels of wort. We're going to yield about 15 and a half barrels out of that. And then it takes about a half an hour in the hop back for the wort to get in there, and then we have to weirdly foil off the hop back to get it to clarify. And then it takes us about an hour to knock. So we've got about an hour and 20, hour and a half contact with the hops. I think that long contact is really important. It just takes that amount of time to extract oil out of it. And then we'll ferment it. Nothing interesting there. We always touch up with dry hops, and we've actually backed down the amount of dry hop that we use. We're now down to, no more than a pound a barrel of dry hop in our fresh hop beers. Sometimes we're down at a half pound a barrel. Mm-hmm. Trying to let that green character kind of come through as much as possible. There's a lot of other ways to do it. A lot of people like to dry hop with fresh hops, and I'm using that term judiciously.
Unkilned, non-kilned.
Well, no. Fresh hop I consider anything that hasn't been baled.
Yeah, but are you talking about the wet ones, or are you?
That's why I said fresh, because I'm being judicious. Some people will dry hop with wet hops. That always makes me nervous. You're adding a lot of moisture, and that to me is a big gamble. If you've got a small brewery and you're willing to make that gamble, I don't think there's anything wrong with dry hopping with wet hops, and there's lots of ways to do that. You could put them in a muslin bag. You could torpedo them. You could do a lot of things, but sometimes it's going to come off musty. Mm-hmm. It's just the nature of all the moisture. I think using fresh kiln is less of a gamble. Like, to me, fresh kiln is like a surefire. You're solid. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have any problems. And believe me, fresh kiln, if you haven't smelled fresh kilned hops versus hops that have been baled and stored and whatnot, it's remarkably different. They're so bright. They're so crazy powerful at that point. I think that's a really good idea. We just kind of like to use them wet and early, and it's just the process that we like to use,
I've been lucky enough as having the small YCH brewery where I'm not really packaging product and sitting on any shelf or really sitting on it. I've been able to dry hop with fresh hops a lot, and my favorite fresh hop beers I've ever made. When I'm saying fresh hops, I'm talking wet unkilned.
Yeah.
And my best success is tearing them up, putting them pretty much in a yeast ring, putting a sock around the spear so they're floating and it's filtering as I rack. But it's tricky because I dry hop and then there's still hop creep, but that water in those hops is hop flavored water. That said, it's not shelf stable, and I wouldn't package a beer with it.
Yeah,
if I was brewing it to drink it at the end of harvest, that's probably my favorite way to do it. Yeah. But when I've done that, the contact time is crucial. It will turn funky really fast. So you should 2 days tops, and then it's tricky because do dry hop, warm, go from the fermenter in there, and then move it off of the hops. Let it continue to warm condition and get a good VDK rest.
Yeah.
And then once VDK is gone, then I'll crash it, carbonate it.
And that's the problem. You're using a reasonable amount. They're unkilned.
Yep.
So the enzymes, the
off the charts, right?
I can't get anything besides proteolytic in my head right now. But which is the wrong thing. That's protein. But anyway, what's the term?
I
It escapes us.
Yeah, it escapes me.
Converting starch to sugar enzymes.
Not
there you
amylase, but
that's right.
I don't know which one it is.
No, they're amylase enzymes. Yeah, the amylase enzymes in hops. Yeah, you're right. You think there's some in Amarillo when you dry hop?
After it's been pelleted and
after it's been kilned, baled, pelleted.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez, just see what it's like when they're wet. It's just chock full of them. So you have that hop creep issue is a big issue. It's just something you have to know about and deal with.
Yeah, you can't dry hop with wet hops and leave them in the fermenter while the VDK comes down. They need to come off. Otherwise it's going to be just a polyphenol veg bomb.
And then the problem is oxygen.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the problem is, you've got the hops in there. Cool. Now I've got to get them out of there. Fuck. How am I going to do that? O2, son of a bitch.
That's why I like using the little drinks how we have it set up. But it's
or
like
if you can torpedo or pump through, that's the way to do it. But that's, man, you can do it. You can build some equipment. There's nothing wrong with that. But these are all issues that you have to deal with. This is among the reasons why for us, when we're making 45 barrels at a time, we're like, this is how we're going to do it.
Yep.
We run them on the hot side. And it allows us to have a stable, repeatable product, which you may say is whatever.
How repeatable is it though?
No. It's only it's repeatable in the sense that every year we can do it, and we know we're gonna make a beer that we're gonna be like, we're good with that. It's gonna be different every year.
I brewed the same recipe.
Yeah.
With a Simcoe fresh hop I do almost every single year, and they are never the same. Although if I get early Simcoe from the same farm, terroir, I get this watermelon note that pops. It comes off in the kiln. It is not in kiln.
Absolutely. I don't mean repeatable that the beer tastes the same every year. I just mean repeatable I won't fuck this beer up.
Yep.
I just mean that.
It's going to be good and people are going to love it.
That.
Yes.
Yeah, that. It's a different kind of repeatable.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas using truly wet hops on the cold side, you're like, oh, geez, I gotta, there's a lot to, there's plenty of places that to go wrong.
So back to the dosing, it sounds like for you've landed on for your system, your hop back, which I think is relatively efficient compared to some people's fresh hop setups. You're using about 10 pounds per barrel.
It's more than
a little bit more because it's 15 barrels. So you could say
12 and a half something.
Yeah.
I can't do the math in my head.
I've done as much as 1 pound per gallon, and that's getting a little bit excessive. But I like about a half pound per gallon, so whatever that is, in pounds per barrel. So a lot,
60 pounds. 60 pounds per barrel.
Half pound per.
No, sorry, 15 pounds.
That 15 pounds per barrel is that's what I like to use. But I do it the same way though. I don't have a hop back, and I didn't have one at my old brewery. I don't really have one now. Well, I'll just clean out the mash tun, get it really hot, add them in there, and it works. Probably similar, but not
that's really the way to do it, is to clean. For most brewers, unfortunately, fresh hop day is a really hectic day because it means you have to mash louder, run louder into your kettle, and during boil, oh my god, I got to get this thing clean, and you got to get your ton really, really clean so you can load it with fresh hops and then come back into it.
Yep. You can actually double batch because you have a third
vessel
we do.
For them. Yeah, doesn't matter.
No problem.
Yeah. For us, we're jerks. The only difference in fresh hop days is someone drives down the valley.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Gigantic. Good times. Anyway.
We do have a couple audience questions.
Yeah, let's take those.
These are kind of directed to the growers a little bit. So question, Johnny Kira and Dave, if you have feedback. How does the farm pickup fresh hop program help you build long-term direct relationships with brewers And then what value does that bring to you guys in the farm here?
I can start that. Like I was saying before, it's a rewarding feeling to know that we've spent all year growing, working as a team to get these hops to the brewers and seeing their excitement. That's probably my favorite part. But especially with talking to a lot of brewers, our industries are so different, but at the same time, with how many moving parts, with how brewing schedules work versus picking schedules, it really brings the brewer and the grower together, right? Just because there's so many moving parts all the time, and yet I can't really compare to your tanks and all of that, but it's definitely, there's a correlation between the two.
I would add that the relationship part of it, we get brewers to come out from a lot of different places, and you get to know them, and they will give you feedback on what your product has given them. So our hops going to certain brewers, they are able to tell us what they got out of that, and I think that's very valuable for us as a team, and especially as we go through our next season and decide what we need to do or change or anything. That's very important to know that, and I think our goal is we're always striving to maintain what they like, right? So that's hard to do in hops, but that's really something that's easy for the group to focus in on and say, what can we do that's similar to the last year, but actually maybe do some things better, like, try to save money or try to do things that are more advantageous for the environment, anything like that. So there's always those conversations to have with them. And I think Van hit on a little earlier, they get to see what we're up against, so we work better when we can talk and communicate. So when you have those relationships, it comes down to where you can just sit down and talk to somebody and they're willing to listen to what you might have to say. David, I don't know if you had anything to add?
No, it's just, it's awesome. Like, we're hearing Van here. One of the things I really love about meeting with brewers is you have a combination of art and science. And the best conversations are people who are really good at art and really good at science. And it just spurs creativity on our part, makes us want to do better. And then I think our goal is the whole craft brew industry, we want to do more. There's an incentive for us financially, but then there's also just, we want to support everybody in the growth of that industry. So.
Yeah, and we're all just so passionate about what we do, and we are, what we do depends on what they do and vice versa. So having a common goal, it's important.
Well, another question is, again, from kind of the grower perspective on fresh hop beers. So how do you see the fresh hop aromas translate into beer? Like, what do you guys see from the ones you've been able to try from the customers that have come and hopefully sent you some of their beers?
Yeah.
Because you grow a lot of different varieties, but can you tell which hops you're in there? What kind of aromas have you guys noticed?
Growing up as a hop farmer, we've grown a lot of different hops. So in most of today's brews, we're not using the same hops I grew up in. But what I do notice is when we go out to see if a field's ready, we do a lot of it by aroma. So if we're out there smelling hops and we get an aroma out of a certain hop, it's easier. When you guys brew a beer with a fresh hop, that's easier to smell in those beers than it would be in a finished beer.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest
Yeah, it's what
thing.
you're used to smelling.
It's what we're used to smelling, because it hasn't gone through that process of kilning or packaging, storage, cooling, all of that. It's fresh, so it's, as he said, it's going to change over the course of 6 months. So we get it when it's a fresh hop beer. We get what it was in the field, and we go, hey, those are our hops, or that's that variety. I can, you identify with it quite pretty quickly.
It's got to be that field, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully we get to that, yeah.
And when we're scheduling these visits to pick up, the nice thing is Kira will be able to say, hey, we're late on Simcoe. There's a difference between Simcoe a week ago versus Simcoe this week. And so at least we can say, hey, we're already into that second week. You're not going to get the super floral. You're going to get more of the resin. So that's one of the nice things. And then hopefully that translates. I think one of the nice things is we do always get beer delivered to us. So I think everybody in the company likes that.
Yeah.
Well, and what I think, it's kind of adding to the terroir side of things as well. For every pickup that happens across all the farms, different varieties, I have a running spreadsheet that has exactly what field these hops came from. And I think over the years, over time, I think we'll start to see trends of we're noticing this note when we're picking at our Mission Bottom farm or St. Paul or, you know, exact yards. And I think that'll be cool to evaluate as years go on.
Got any more questions? I'm gonna ask, what's your favorite fresh hop to smell from the grower's perspective and from Van's perspective? I'd like to hear that. Out of all the varieties.
For myself, I love Simcoe.
I'm a Citra fan.
I'm Simcoe for sure.
Yeah, I'm a Simcoe Crystal. Yep.
The odds here.
Crystal is interesting on our farm. We've grown Crystal, and it comes back as cotton candy is a term we hear a lot.
The term when it's fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. Like or sweet tarts.
Yeah, something sugary.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But Simcoe's great.
And, yeah, it's pretty wide too. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there, so that's great.
The fine notes in Citra are my favorite, but I know you guys know, you walk into a Simcoe yard near harvest and it almost hits you in the face. The aroma is so, and it's a good aroma. It's just so strong, especially Simcoe near harvest.
I'd have a couple more questions here.
I get one while you're looking, Blaze.
You got it?
For you growers, what do you guys, as growers, how do you celebrate the end of harvest? What do you guys do?
Sleep.
Take a few days off. We usually take a few days off, but we're coming back together because a lot of the crew is going to be leaving and we need to get payroll ready and all that. So a lot of it is we will celebrate with the crew. We have a little get together, a little party, and celebrate harvest, safe harvest. Hand out some T-shirts and
We do an annual harvest T-shirt.
Harvest T-shirt, and everybody appreciates. Yeah, Kira's got one on right now. So we tell them how much we thank them for being around and helping us, and so I think it's just an opportunity to say thank you to the crew, and then for everybody to go about it. But most people will go take a few days rest after harvest. So.
And I like to barbecue, so we're on this patio which we built actually for brewers, but we put a grill in there, and Dave will go out there and cook up
we'll
the
bring them
burgers
up
for
here and
everybody.
they'll have burgers.
We have another question. Do you brewers request experimental hop?
We haven't had any that I know of. Maybe you've seen it.
Well, there's not through YCH.
Yeah, I would say that
necessarily.
YCH would probably be at Peralt's farm. I think most of the experimental varieties are in Washington, so we don't see it here in Oregon because most of those YCR varieties are created in Washington.
Yeah, there's a little bit around here, but they're small plots. They're tiny.
Oregon State has a plot over by Hubbard that they do some on, and I couldn't tell you we don't have any of those plots on our farm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there enough quantity?
Yeah, no, it's like like a lot of those are like literally like 3 binds.
Yeah.
It's not enough for,
I get the request for elite lines in particular, and we very rarely can accommodate them just because it's pretty tricky to know when they're going to actually be picked, and usually it's going to be like, well, we're picking for this amount of time. So, but not much. I do get the request once in a while, but they're pretty tough to accommodate because of volume and just logistics. So,
I mean, historically, as a brewer, if you want to work with any kind of hop that isn't widely grown, I mean, pick whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Like a lot of times, you just have to kind of have an opening in your brewing schedule. You just have to be like, okay, I don't know when we're going to brew this beer. We've got to be ready on any particular day. You call up your grower who has it, and sometimes they will change it. They'll be like, okay, I'm planning on picking on Tuesday. And then you get a call Monday morning. You need to be down here.
you got to have yeast in the tank.
You're like,
ready.
what? Wait, what? So for experimentals, it's got to be like impossible.
It's pretty tricky.
Yeah.
All right, I have one more question, brewer related here. Base recipe to brew for fresh hop. Man, what's your preference for fresh hop brew?
For the base recipe? Oh, man.
What style? What's your recipe like?
Super simple. We literally just use base malt. That's it. We tend to use like a 2.5 lava bond kind of pale ale malt. That's our standard malt. And nothing else. because it's not about the malt, it's about the hops. And like I said, it's probably in the 13, 14 gravity range. We don't, frankly, worry about bitterness units. You're just like, whatever, just take for 15 barrels, you're like, just take a pound of whatever the fuck you have sitting around. Throw it in there at the beginning of boil. It's not important. It really isn't. And then just worry about what you're loading in the end. Like, just keep it ridiculously simple for us. It's not like there's a lot of, in the last couple of years, a lot of people have been like, I'm going to make fresh hop Pilsner. I'm going to make fresh hop Kolsch. I'm going to make fresh hop whatever. We're just like, it's not about the style. It's about the hop.
Yep.
It's like jamming in there. Yeah. And so we tend to run them about high 5s, low 6s. Alcohol. It's about the right
low
number.
6s.
Yeah, it's about the right
I
number.
think that's the sweet spot for fresh hops, to be honest. They have like a 13 Plato.
Yep.
Not much more than that.
Yep. It's right in there. Yep.
These days, I just run our base recipe because we're an R&D brewery and we have some pale recipes. We don't really have any crystal in them anymore.
Yep.
No carapils.
Yep.
But it just exacerbates the hop creep in my experience.
Yep.
And yeah, just keep it pretty clean with the hop shine.
Yeah, it's like our recipes are the most boring thing you've ever seen. It's just like pale malt, 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, you got bigger,
There you go.
You got bigger things to worry about than the
Yeah,
malts. Like
yeah.
what are those fresh hops like? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Super simple.
All right. One last kind of random question before we kind of close out here today. Van, it's for you directly.
Jesus.
What's your favorite song to listen to when driving back to Portland with a truckload or carload of hops?
What's my favorite? What jerk asked this question?
Somebody who knows you, maybe. Huh?
I'm just gonna be really obnoxious and make people look something up. It's gonna be the first song off Chapter House's first album, which I think is Mother of Pearl. There you go. If you don't know it, enjoy, everyone. There you go. Chapter House. Shoegaze.
I was going to
from
say
the-
from the Allman Brothers, a gambling man.
Oh yeah, you would think so. It's
And on the way up to this, I'm
that's
gambling
true.
on
It
this.
should be. It should be.
That was trucking. Grateful Dead.
Oh God, no! I've never listened to that. I have to shoot myself.
Any parting thoughts from you?
I know. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you for everybody being here and helping out.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for YCH for sure.
I'm gonna say a big thanks to the Coleman crew here. It's
Yeah,
in the middle of harvest. You're in the thick of it, and you really accommodated an awesome panel. So thank you so much.
Thank you
very
guys.
much for all you guys do.